Welcome back. Okay, so now we really are going to start to delve into email etiquette, ways of drastically improving your writing and coming across in the best possible light for your reader. So let's begin. Okay, so I'd like to begin by just showing you a sample email. Don't worry, you don't have to read all of it, but this is typically the structure that you'll be looking for when you're writing. So obviously at the top you have a nice subject line or headline, very clear, very concise to ensure that the reader knows what the email is about. This needs to be continually updated, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Then you begin with the addressing the recipient. Dear John, could be hi John. There's different ways, and again, we'll be talking about that further on. Then you have your greeting. Now, this is the part that a lot of people miss out, and it is essential that you have a greeting here. And because this is the first thing, apart from their name, that they will see, and this really sets the tone for the email. Next, you have the introduction and body, followed by the ask, the action, the call to action, if you'd like to call it that, what you essentially need or what you'd like them to do. So here it says, I would like to request a meeting with you. Now, depending on the importance of the call to action, this could be moved higher up. Some people would even maybe put it at the top of the email. The reasoning for that is in case the person maybe receives a phone call when they're reading your email. So by putting the call to action, the thing that you really need at the top, could be a way forward. Some people even put it on there twice, but just written slightly in slightly different ways. Whatever is up to you. But if it's not sort of utmost importance, typically people would put it down here just as a guide is to let the reader know exactly what you want them to do. Maybe it would say, I look forward to hearing from you soon. Maybe it would say, if you have any questions, let me know. Whatever it is, you can let them know, A, if they need to reply, B, when they need to reply by, or maybe it's just for their own information. But letting them know there makes it nice and clear. Then you have a closing statement. Now, typically, I tend to use similar closing statements in most of my emails. I look forward to hearing from you soon. If you have any queries, please let me know. And then you finish off with your signature. So yeah, the closing statement or the closing sentence is something that you might even attach or have within your signature. Some people do. I wouldn't recommend that. My signature just has kindest regards, my name, and then sort of my company details. Okay, but anyway, this is the general sort of layout. Please do note that it's not all one big chunk of text. Instead, you have sort of spaces and paragraphs in between each, which breaks it up nicely. So yeah, please do notice that. The reason it's good is because no one likes to look at a massive chunk of text. It makes it difficult to read. Just simply splitting it into shorter lines or paragraphs makes it's easier on the eye, makes it easier to read, and also it's less scary looking. If someone's looking at too much text, they might think, oh, I'll read that later, I'm not in the mood to read that now, in which case your response will be later as well. So this way it's cleaner, it's nicer. Maybe you want to use bullet points in there, it's up to you, but this is a sort of a sample format. So what actually is email etiquette? You hear the term a lot, most probably, but what actually is it? Well, it's actually the rules which indicate the correct way to behave in a certain time and place. You have dining etiquette as well, for example. It's the principles of behavior that people should sort of take note of when they're answering or writing or answering emails, code of conduct of communication, and it's essential in the workplace to build credibility. Also, as an employee, you're an ambassador of your company. You may have your own set layouts and templates that your company wish you to follow. but email etiquette will still be integrated within those. So please do, take note of these few tips I'm going to give you, and yeah, please do try and implement them and see how they work. And if you have any feedback as well at any time, as I mentioned, I'm always happy to hear it. I love the comments and feedback, and I'll be happy to respond. So, first thing, we have here, well, two sort of silhouettes. Now, you receive an email from Ashley Davis. You've never met Ashley before. How would you begin your email? Just give you a few seconds to think about it. Now, this is something that I've experienced myself, and it doesn't look good. And also, I've heard many sort of company employees have also faced similar situations, especially because I was in China. So some of the names people might not know if it's a man or a woman, and in fact some names like Ashley can be for a boy or a girl. So be careful. I've had emails sent to me before calling me Mrs. Hurley, and if that's the first thing I see in the email, it doesn't go down well. It doesn't set the good tone for the rest of the email. So do be careful when you're writing to somebody. You don't really want to misgender them. Okay, so what can you do to save that happening? Well, what you can do so that you don't fall into making any form of mistake, all you need to do all you need to do is use an appropriate salutation, which is, for example, Dear Taylor Brown or Dear Ashley Davis. So use their full name. A generic greeting could be Dear Sir or Madam. So typically you would use Dear Sir or Madam if you don't know who you're writing to. You'll see there it says to whom it may concern. Now, to whom it may concern is very formal. And to be honest, your response rate, if you're writing to whom it may concern at the top of your email, your response rate will probably be fairly low because it's that you don't they don't know who you're writing to. If they don't know who you're writing to, they're probably not going to respond. So, but also, for example, if I receive an email that says to whom it may concern, if they don't know my name, it's definitely not going to the top of my list of things to respond to. I'll respond to things far faster if it has my name on it, and I'm sure many people feel the same. So that's just something to be aware of. When you know the person well, then yeah, well, dear Taylor, it's always going to be okay in business. Hello, Taylor. Some people do just put Taylor, but as in the example on the first slide of just putting Emma, it can sort of be a bit abrupt. So yeah, something hello or hi or dear is always nicer. Now, I often get asked when to use dear, when to use hello, and when to use hi. I also get asked which is more formal, hi or hello. Now, obviously, hello. I'll approach this one first. Hello is the full word, isn't it? Hi is a shortened form of hello. Hello, however, due to the common use of hi in emails, it has actually become the preferred option. It's probably the more standard option. Hello is typically what people say when they're speaking, more than when they're emailing. When they're emailing, it's usually hi. Now, when to use dear and when to use hi. Now, typically, what I would do, and as a rule of thumb, and I would advise you to do this as well, because you can't really go wrong if you do it this way. I would always begin with dear. So, especially with customers, especially with the senior managers or whoever as well, begin with dear. Now, if when they respond they're using hi, then maybe you use hi. Okay. However, if they write to you first and they use hi, then you can use hi. So basically, if they're writing to you first, just copy whatever they do. If you're writing first, use dear until they stop using dear. That's a good way. If you want to remain formal all the way through, then just keep using dear. I often just use dear all the way through, even if I'm receiving hi back. But yeah, there's no definite answer. I'm just giving you some sort of ideas of what you can do if you ever get stuck. Right, when you're sending to a supervisor, yeah, like dear Mr. Brown, dear Mrs. Brown, Ms. Brown. Now, the thing here that you might notice is the full stop after Mr. On the left, it has it. On the right, it doesn't. Now, there is no right or wrong regarding this full stop. If you want to use it, you can. You don't have to. In England, I don't think we really use it that much. I think in America, people tend to use the dot more, and also in some countries in Europe, they tend to use the dot after Mr., Mrs., and Ms. But yeah, it's entirely up to you. The only thing I would recommend is to remain consistent. So, but yeah, it's entirely up to you. It's very similar to the comma after the name. Sometimes it has like dear Ms. Brown, comma. Some people do use it, some people don't. There's no real right or wrong with it. It's personal preference. Now, this is quite important, addressing multiple people. Okay, so here we've got Dear Taylor, Bob, Mary, and Sue, or Dear Team, or Dear All. Okay, now I prefer to use, Dear Team, Dear Everyone, Dear All, rather than the names. And I'll tell you why. You might think it's silly, but people do get offended by it. Um, Dear Taylor, Bob, Mary, and Sue. Now, Taylor might be thinking, wow, that's fantastic. Mine's the first name. I am the most important. Sue, however, might be a bit disgruntled, especially, for example, if Sue is the CEO and Taylor is the intern. Sue might not like that. So be very careful about that. There could be hierarchy issues. So best to avoid it. Dear all, I think, is my go-to, unless it's a team, where you can actually mention the name of the team. And then if you want to mention something to people within the email itself, use their name. Quite common nowadays as well, people will put the at symbol and then the person's name, who they are wishing to sort of relay the information to or ask a question to. One other thing is, don't mix and match the Mr. and the Mrs. with the first names on their own. So, for example, you don't say, Dear Mr. Smith, Taylor, Mrs. Jones, and Sue. If you're going to use Mr. and Mrs. Ms, then use it for everybody. Otherwise, just use their first names, and remain consistent. Don't mix and match. Again, could be hierarchy issues, and some people could get disgruntled. Okay, I hope that's been useful. Now, here, just one small thing to mention: never use hello dear or hello dears. This is something that I see quite a lot, usually when I get emails from non-native English speaking countries, and they're trying to be nice. They're trying to be very sort of nice, pleasant, humble. But hello, dear is something I say to my wife when I come home. And hello, dears is something that grandparents usually say to their kids. Either use hello or use dear, but don't use both together. So, yeah, that's just something to be aware of if you're a non native speaker. Now, avoid using these greeting words in business also. Okay, so hey, fine to use with your friends, but this is a very informal salutation and should stay out of the workplace. Secondly, dear mom. Mom is something that you call the queen. So it gives off a very impersonal vibe. It can also be offensive to the recipient, but also it sounds very old. If you're calling people mom, it sounds very old. So yeah, try not to do that. Dear madam, if you want to be formal and polite. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is fine as long as you know that the person who's opening it will be opening it in the morning, afternoon, or evening. It's polite, but if you send your email in the morning and then the person reads it in the evening, It's a bit strange, and again, it's a bit not confusing for them. I'm sure they'll understand that you wrote it in the morning, but just to save sort of any embarrassment or confusion, yeah, it's best to use dear or hi or hello. Well, dear or hi is probably the best, rather than good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Those are fine if you're actually speaking to somebody live. Much the same as if you were making a vlog or video, you wouldn't use good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, because it depends on where the person is. Anyway, yeah, to and the name. Okay, this is a bit awkward, a bit juvenile sounding. To is usually used on birthday cards and Christmas cards, for example. Yeah, to Jason, happy birthday. It's not used so much on emails. So hopefully you're not using this. If you are, yeah, again, dear or hi, it's better. The first name is not wrong. A lot of people do use it. I personally feel it's a bit abrupt, and I know other people do also. If it's a customer, then it does sound very abrupt. I'm sure you'll probably agree with me there. Nicer to have dear or hi. Hi guys, hi folks, hey y'all. This is fine if it's your friends, if it's your team and colleagues that you get on well with and you have a great rapport with. Otherwise, it's not very formal, so try and avoid using these if you can. Much the same as using cheers at the end of the email. Misspelled names. Now, I know that you'll think that this is a no-brainer, but it does happen. And again, I've had my name misspelt, and it's only got 5 letters in my first name. But it does happen. Double check it. This is one of the things where, checking for corrections, when you're checking your final draft, check and double check their name as well as their email address. Sometimes the email address gets typed in wrong, but names like Danielle, sometimes it has one L, sometimes it has two L's. Double check, triple check those names. People don't like having their name misspelt. Okay, now include a clear subject. So subject, it's the first thing that people are going to see. Make it clear and try and include as much information as you can without making it too long. So include clear subject matter that succinctly captures what your email is about. For example, meeting date changed, or quick question about your presentation, or suggestions for the proposal. So whatever it is that you're writing about, try and give everything in there wherever you can. Maybe it's for your information, or please review, or action required. The reason, probably the biggest reason I can give you for this, is it lets the recipient know what to do. And if for example you are emailing them every day, every week, every month, then they will start to know your emailing habits, and you will start to also know theirs. They'll know how soon you respond, and you'll know how soon they respond. They'll know when it's really urgent, and they'll know when it's just for their information. But you can make it really easy from the outset by putting it in the subject. If it has FYI, for your information, they'll know that it doesn't have to be dealt with straight away. It's just there if they need it. But if it says please reply or action required, they will open it with priority, because they know that you label your emails well, and if you put it in the subject, you mean it. It's there for a reason. So use them sparingly and use them in the correct places. Well, use the urgent ones. For example, please review, action required. Maybe even it says urgent, but not in capitals. Use those sparingly, because when you want them to open them quickly, you want them to think, oh my gosh, I haven't seen them use that before, or I haven't seen them use that in a while. It is urgent. I'd better do it now. Okay. Yeah, don't capitalize all your letters, no matter how urgent it is. Don't capitalize any of the letters. Writing urgent with a capital U and the rest in lowercase, and then a colon, and then whatever it is sufficient. It doesn't have to be all shouting capitals. This is an important one, especially if you have a large email trail. When the topic changes, update or restart the email. So maybe you want to keep the whole email within one email, but do change the subject. And the reason is because if you come back in 6 months' time and you want to go to that email, rather than having to look through 50 emails, you can just type in the subject and the sender, and you will be able to find it far quicker. So it's more for your administration convenience. Okay, right, so subject line tips. Yeah, micro statements can form subject lines. Basically, what that means is have a concise sort of detail of what the email is about in your subject. Always update the subject, keep it short, grab attention, summarize the article. If it's a meeting, put full details of the meeting. Okay, now a bad example. For your information, team meeting details. Okay, now maybe you think, well, what's wrong with that? That's fine. I'll tell you what's wrong with that. If you want, say, if you're in a rush for the meeting, which does happen, it means you're going to have to open the email. Isn't it much nicer if the sender put all of the information in the title or in the subject of the meeting itself? Team meeting, 10 a.m., 31st of July, meeting room 3. They know where to go, what time it is. They don't even have to open it. If they want more, they can open it, but they don't have to. You're saving them time. You're thinking of them. They will appreciate it. Okay, so select the appropriate subject line. Okay, so I'll read them through. I'll give you the answer and I'll tell you why. If you want to pause at any time, please do. So, to apply for the role of Java developer in a project, would it be application for the post of Java developer job, Java developer, or developer requirement? The answer is application for the post of Java developer. It's the only one that clearly and concisely lets the person know exactly what the email contains. Request for approval for attending a workshop on ISO 27001. Attend workshop on 25th of July, going to the workshop on Friday, request approval to attend ISO 27001 workshop, or to go to workshop not coming office. The answer is, of course, 3. Again, it's concise. Okay. Request your HR for a bona fide letter with a reason mentioned. Request for a bona fide letter for bank opening. Bona fide certificate wanted. Bank requires bona fide certificate, or give bona fide certificate. Which one do you think? Hopefully you didn't pick the last one. It's fairly sort of abrupt and a bit rude. The first one is the nicest and the best. If you're submitting a project report, ABC project report, July 2020, or check report. Which one do you think? It's B, or number 2, ABC project report, July 2020. Great. Don't hit reply all or CC everyone. Again, it might seem very simple, but I've seen people do it. I've seen people email the whole company by hitting reply all by mistake instead of just replying to the one person that they wanted. But also, don't copy everyone into your email. Maybe they don't want to be copied in. Some people, especially if there's sort of some complaint email and someone wants to complain about their colleagues, so they copy in all the managers, and then all the managers get annoyed because they don't want all of these emails going backwards and forwards. Be very careful when you copy people in. Only copy people in if it's essential, and also if they want to be copied in, or if they need to be copied in. So if you need them to, if they need to be, but yeah, wherever you can, ask their permission first if that is possible. But don't just add people, because yeah, it can lose you credibility, but also it can annoy others. One thing, a good way of sort of knowing if it's a good idea to copy someone or not is to think if other people in the chain of the emails that are being copied might have the same question that you have. If they do, then maybe it's a good thing, rather than answering the same question 10 times. That's a good reason why people would like to be copied in. But that's not always, and it's again good to ask if they're happy to be, because yeah, if too many emails are going backwards and forwards, it can rapidly fill up people's inboxes, and they'll get upset. Also, does your manager solicit feedback from everyone? Does your manager want to be copied in? Managers are busy. They don't really want to be copied into everything. Some of them do. If they like to micromanage, often they don't. They just want the results. So definitely, if it's a manager, double check first. Always spell check. Now, I mentioned earlier that the word spell check is, for some, well, at last time I checked anyway, the word spell check was actually more efficient than the Outlook spell check. So this is specifically for people using Microsoft Office. This is what I found. It's not the only reason for using Word documents, though. It's a lot easier to sort of tailor your messages on Word, and also you've got the dictionary, you've got other tools that you can use too. So yeah, I would use Word for important emails and then copy it over to Outlook. But the spell check is a lot better in my opinion on Word. Now, here's some useful email phrases for you, if you would like to use them. So, opening lines, being sociable. I hope this email finds you well, or I hope all is well. I'm glad we had a chance to chat at the convention. It was a pleasure to meet you or to talk to you yesterday. Allow me to introduce myself. Now, I usually use I hope you are well if it's, well, any time really. If it's just after the weekend, I might say, I hope you had a great weekend. Sometimes I'll say, I hope you're having a great day, or I hope you're having a great week. It doesn't matter what you use as long as you use something, because it sets the tone for the email and it's a nice thing to do. It's the first thing someone will read after their name. So yeah, as I mentioned, my go-to favorite is, I hope you're well. Now, if you're the one emailing first, you could use some of these. As we discussed on our call, I'm writing to you about our last meeting or your presentation or our next event. Or I'm writing to you with regards to, or regarding, or concerning, or in connection with. Or I'm writing to you to follow up on. Or might I take a moment of your time too? Now, this is very formal. But yeah, again, they're nice if you're the one emailing first. Some more useful phrases. If you're asking for clarification, could you please provide more details on? Or could you please clarify? And then whatever you need clarifying. Could you please clarify when you would like us to finish this? Or if I understood you correctly, you would like me to? Or could you explain what you mean by X? Or please elaborate. Could you please elaborate on what you mean by X? So yeah, don't just assume, don't jump to conclusions when you are, especially if you've been asked to provide some information in response to an email. Always clarify, and these are some great ways that you can use. They're all fairly similar, but you might have a preference. So yeah, please feel free to choose. Now, if you want to show them that you want to help, this is usually at the end of the email. So yeah, if I can be of assistance, please do not hesitate to contact me. If you require any further information, please feel free to contact me. Please let me know if you have any questions or queries. Should you need any further information, please do not hesitate to contact me. Or if you have any additional questions in the meantime, please let me know. Okay, so they're all very similar, some slight subtle differences, but again, choose the one that you like and which suits you best. Okay, so here are some more useful email phrases, and these are expressions with a future focus. So yeah, just when you're finishing, when you're closing your email, these are nice to put at the end. I look forward to hearing from you soon, or I'm looking forward to your reply. So these let the person know that you're waiting for them to respond to you. It's making it very clear that you're looking for that. If you're not looking for it, maybe you're just beginning a partnership with someone and you're going to be working together. You could say something along the lines of, we look forward to a successful working relationship in the future. Now, if you do need something urgently, you could use the next one. I would appreciate your immediate attention to this matter. Fairly forceful, but it is still polite, but it's expressing the sense of urgency. Okay, so I hope those have been useful for you. And yeah, please do, look through, choose the ones you like, write them down, and try and use them in your emails as well. And yeah, as mentioned, a lot of them can be repeatedly used. So I hope that's useful for you, and I'll see you in the next slide.